Parker stood in the center of the crystalline throne room, his boots echoing against floors that seemed to be made of frozen starlight. Around him, the Zeltheri court watched with their luminescent eyes, their elegant forms draped in garments that defied Earth's understanding of physics. At the far end of the hall, upon a throne carved from a single piece of quantum-shifted matter, sat Princess Velshara, her silver skin gleaming under the bioluminescent chandeliers. Nancy stood beside him, her hand resting cautiously on her sidearm. The diplomatic mission to the Zeltheri homeworld had been going smoothly until this moment, until the princess had asked the question that now hung in the air like a death sentence. "Human Parker," the princess spoke, her voice like wind chimes in a storm. "I have granted you audience, shown you hospitality, offered alliance between our peoples, yet I sense fear radiating from you. Why do you fear me?" The court fell silent. Even the ambient hum of the palace's energy systems seemed to quiet. Nancy glanced at Parker, her eyes wide with warning. One wrong word could doom humanity's chances at joining the Galactic Council. The Zeltheri were one of the oldest and most powerful species in known space. Parker took a breath. He could feel sweat forming on his palms despite the room's perfect climate control. He'd rehearsed 1,000 diplomatic responses during the journey here, but none of them seemed right now. Not when those ancient eyes were boring into him, reading his biometric responses with technology humans had barely theorized about. "Your Highness," he began, his voice steadier than he felt, "I do not fear you." A murmur rippled through the assembled courtiers. The princess tilted her head, an expression that might have been curiosity or offense. "Your cardiovascular system accelerates. Your sweat glands activate. Your pupils dilate. Do not insult my intelligence with lies, human." Nancy's hand tightened on her weapon. Parker raised his hand slightly, a signal for her to stand down. "You're right," Parker said, his jaw setting. "I am afraid, but not of you, Princess Velshara. I'm afraid for you." The silence that followed was absolute. Parker could hear his own heartbeat thundering in his ears. Several courtiers made sounds of outrage, their forms shifting colors in what he'd learned was a sign of extreme emotion among the Zeltheri. "Explain yourself," the princess commanded, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Carefully, Parker stepped forward, ignoring Nancy's sharp intake of breath. "Your species has ruled this sector for 12,000 years. You've never known defeat, never known true desperation. You've watched younger species rise and fall, always secure in your superiority." He paused, meeting the princess's gaze directly. "That terrifies me, not because of what you might do to us, but because of what we might have to do to you." The throne room erupted. Courtiers surged forward, their melodious voices raised in anger. Guards materialized from alcoves Parker hadn't even noticed, their weapons organic things that pulsed with contained energy trained on him and Nancy silence. The princess's voice boomed with amplification that made the crystalline walls resonate. The court froze. She leaned forward on her throne, her expression unreadable. "Continue, human." Parker's mouth was dry, but he pressed on. "Humanity is young, desperate. We've nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times in our short history. We've survived ice ages, pandemics, world wars, and our own stupidity. We've clawed our way up from caves to starships through sheer, bloody-minded refusal to die." He took another step forward. Nancy moved with him, her loyalty unwavering even in the face of certain death. "Your people are powerful, wise, ancient, but you've been comfortable for so long that you've forgotten what it means to fight for survival. If humanity threatens you, if we become desperate enough, we won't fight with honor or wisdom. We'll fight like cornered animals. We'll sacrifice everything, burn our own worlds, throw away millions of lives. Use weapons so terrible that victory becomes meaningless." His voice grew quieter, more intense. "And we'll win, princess, not because we're stronger or smarter, but because we're willing to lose everything to survive." The silence stretched. Parker could see the calculations happening behind the princess's eyes, her advanced mind processing his words against thousands of years of historical data. "You fear that your species might force us to destroy you," she said slowly, "that we might provoke you into becoming monsters." "Yes," Parker said simply. "I've read the histories of every species humanity has encountered. Do you know what they all have in common?" They all thought they could control us, manipulate us, enslave us. They all learned too late that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology or our numbers. It's our absolute refusal to accept defeat. He looked around at the assembled court. I fear that your confidence, your power, your righteousness might blind you to that truth until it's too late for both our species. Princess Velshara rose from her throne, her full height impressive even by Zeltheri standards. She descended the steps slowly, and Parker noticed that every guard in the room had tensed. Uncertain whether to protect her or shoot him, she stopped directly in front of him, so close he could see the subtle patterns of light that moved beneath her silver skin. In 12,000 years, she said softly, no species has ever come to our court and spoken truth so dangerous. They flatter, they plead, they negotiate. She paused, and something that might have been a smile crossed her alien features. You came here and threatened me with honesty. You fear us not as masters, but as potential victims of your own nature. Parker nodded. Not trusting himself to speak, the princess turned to address her court. The human speaks wisdom we have forgotten. Perhaps it is time the Zeltheri remembered that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the choice to preserve rather than destroy. She looked back at Parker and Nancy. Your application to the Galactic Council is approved, humans. Not because we pity your youth, but because we respect your dangerous truth. As the court processed this unexpected turn, the princess leaned closer to Parker and whispered, teach us to fear again, human. A species that cannot fear cannot truly choose courage. Parker and Nancy were escorted from the throne room with honors usually reserved for ancient allies. As they walked through the crystalline corridors, Nancy finally spoke. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Parker smiled grimly. Maybe both, but she needed to know what humanity really is before deciding if we could coexist. Behind them, in the throne room, Princess Velshara sat upon her throne, thinking about fear, about truth, and about the strange young species that had just changed the Zeltheri Empire forever. And for the first time in 1,000 years, she felt something she'd thought her people had evolved beyond. She felt uncertain, and it was exhilarating.